Hello friends and welcome to Goblin Talks. Today we are talking communication and compromise. Before we start talking about it, I want to define the terms. Communication, that is where two or more people are sharing ideas, talking to each other, and listening to each other. So what does that look like? This is communication. Both hands, both people, are interacting with each other, they're working together, and they're both catching and throwing. They're listening, responding, talking. This is not communication. In this case, we have our hands switching off doing things. Now, we're getting closer here, but even there, we're not quite there. Each of the hands is sort of still doing this. I'm doing my own thing, and then I'm going to pass it off to you. And that is not communication. Communication requires both parties, or more than one party, more than two parties, to be talking, listening, and interacting together. Communication, right here. And that can get more complicated. You can have all sorts of different communication. But we'll get to that. Compromise. Compromise is where you need to communicate together to make a decision. A decision that will hopefully benefit both parties, or all three parties, or all five parties. However many parties are involved, when you compromise, you are using communication to understand the different needs and desires of each party and arrive at a solution that allows every party to get something that they want. What does that look like? Well, if this is communication, then we could say, in compromise, you have a hand that wants to do something, maybe something like this. Okay. So my right hand wants to spike down, but that means that my left hand has to compromise and catch it, right? Because my right hand can't go catch it right now. But my left hand might say, well, okay, but I want to do one of those afterwards, right? This. My left hand wants to go over the top. It's got its own goal. And so they work together. They say, well, the left hand's going to do something a little out of the ordinary, but it wants to do something else that's out of the ordinary too, so the right hand has to respond. In this case, compromise is starting to happen. We have two parties with different goals. They're not at all the same goal. In fact, we couldn't have a spike leading into an immediate spike. We could, but it'd be weird looking. Anyways, we have both hands working together to achieve a common goal, which is right hand wants to do that, left hand wants to go over the top. Spike over the top. And so we get compromise. Now, I want to dip into talking a little bit about this in relationships and how it starts to break down, okay? So when we communicate in relationships, we assume we're always on the same page, and what can happen a lot of the time is one of us just starts talking. And we keep talking, and the other person tries to talk and tries to listen, but what they end up feeling is like, well, you're just sort of saying stuff, and now I'm no longer involved in this conversation. That's not communication. It is absolutely imperative to learn to communicate, regardless of your relationship style. Whether you are dating one person or five, you have to communicate with them. I will say this, communication is easier with less people. So if you're going to try and date more people, you're going to have to get even better at communication, because now you've got like all these different parties and stuff, and they all want to talk, and they all have things to say, and you have to successfully listen to them. And I would say this, the most important part of communication is learning to listen correctly. Learning to actually hear what people are telling you. And that is not as easy as it sounds. When you listen to a partner, when you listen even to a friend, start practicing it. Start actually trying to hear what they're saying and try and understand where they're coming from. And that allows you to compromise better. Because if you can understand what the person is telling you, and you already know your own goals, which if you don't know your own goals, do some soul searching. Figure out what you want. And then you can start to have these compromises. And again, as you get more people involved in the compromise, you're going to have to listen better, and you're going to have to compromise more actively. A compromise is not taking what you want and giving nothing back. Compromise happens when both parties make an agreement. They might sort of like meet in the middle, or they might say, well, I'm going to take this thing, and you take this thing, and we'll call it even. Or this thing, this thing, this thing, if there's more people involved. Compromise, okay? You have to do it. And you have to understand that you're not going to get everything you want when you compromise. Finally, I want to put this out there. This is a basic fact. You have a thought and you're concerned that your partner isn't going to like it. Should I talk to them about it? Yes! You should be talking to them about it. I have this other thought and I don't know if they even care. You should still talk to him about it. The answer to most of your problems in a relationship is actually talking to him about it, and that requires trust. Okay? And at the end of the day, if you can't trust your partners, the people you work with, is it really worth it to keep doing it? You might as well put yourself out there and see if you can trust them. Because you probably can. And if you can't, it's probably not worth it. Maybe it is. I don't know. I don't know you. But I can say this. Learn to communicate. Learn to compromise, and everything will be better for you in life. Thank you for joining me. I am Goblin. This is Goblin Talks. I will be back next week with another video. You can subscribe to me on YouTube. You can find me on Twitch if you like games and stuff. You can find me on Facebook. I got links there. You have a good one.